Good evening and welcome back to Mystic Matters. We are the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce. Good evening, Tricia Walsh.
Good evening, Suzette.
You know, a couple of weeks ago you mentioned we're right into fall.
We are right past fall.
Okay, so that means the weather is going to get a little bit cooler, right?
Unfortunately it is,
All
but it
right.
also means that we are gearing up for all of those wonderful holiday events.
And those holiday events are?
We have Santa Arrives by Tugboat, the Lighted Holiday Boat Parade, the Groton Lights Parade, the Downtown Mystic Stroll, and then we go right into our annual dinner. But even before all that, one thing that's really exciting for us is we will be launching our new website in probably the next week or two. Fingers
now I want to
crossed.
tell you, as a member and a chamber advisor, I am so excited about that.
Well, I have to tell you that I may be going blind from reading the Excel files and trying to get everything in place for that, but we are super excited. So make sure that in the coming weeks you check out mysticchamber.org and see all of the changes that we made. And big thank you to Miranda Creative for our web design on that.
Long time coming. Long time coming.
Very
Tricia.
much needed.
And all of you have worked very hard.
Thank you.
We've got a really exciting show tonight, and I think it's the first time ever on Mystic Matters.
I believe it is.
Okay, I want to welcome Sharon Trask. Thank you so much, Sharon, for coming and visiting us this evening, and we have a lot to talk about. And Nancy Lipinski, did I get that last name right?
Perfect, right on.
Okay. Sharon, tell us what you do, your title, and then we'll get right into you, Nancy, as well.
Perfect. Thank you for having us. I'm the market manager for Webster Bank. I cover banking centers from Providence, Rhode Island, all the way to Waterford, Connecticut.
Not a bad little
area. It's a
yeah.
beautiful shoreline,
Yeah.
so
A
it's
great
a great
drive.
area. It certainly is. It certainly is.
That's fantastic. And Nancy?
I'm the branch manager right here in town in Groton.
Okay.
I have been with the bank since 2006, so I have a lot of experience with that particular branch in the area.
And for those of our viewers that are confused thinking, which one is Webster or where is Webster Bank exactly? Can you explain where the Groton branch is? And
Yeah, if I tell somebody I work at Webster, they may not know where that place is, but they do know where the Ground Round used to be.
Yes.
So, it was the Ground Round.
Now, what does that tell you, Nancy? Don't know where Webster is, but the Ground Round.
Yeah, so
Oh, it's a beautiful building.
it's a beautiful
It's
building,
gorgeous. It really
inside
is.
and out. You should come inside.
I've had the pleasure of going inside. They hosted one of our GBA breakfasts
Fantastic.
months ago, and it's just a beautiful facility. Everything, it's hard to believe that 2005, that it's still, everything looks brand new still.
I know.
So it was really nice. And then you have another branch in Waterford, you were saying.
Correct.
Boston Post Road. Yep. Okay.
So, Sharon, I have to tell you, banking has changed.
Certainly
Okay,
has.
I mean, it really has changed with those little passbooks. You know, we've come a long way, but you've got some new retail banking practices that Webster does. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we do, Suzette. I mean, as you can imagine, the way people do banking has changed dramatically. Whether it be, you've got your mobile app on your phone that you can make a deposit right in your hands, to the advent of the sophisticated ATM machines where you can certainly make a ticketless deposit, cash, checks, you name it. So we are seeing a reduction in the amount of traffic that comes into the banking centers, with direct deposit, all of those great electronic
Actual
services.
human beings coming in. Yeah, yeah.
So as a result, we've looked at the whole layout and how we're running our offices, and we've really transformed our staff. We've taken the traditional teller roles and the banker roles and really rejuvenated them into this exciting new position that we call universal banker.
I happen to love that. I love that.
I think this is a concept that is not just even about banking anymore. It's about just having a career in general. You almost have to know how to do every part of the job that you're involved in.
But I think, Sharon and Nancy, what that does for a consumer is everything. Because it used to be, and I don't know, I mean, you actually were at the bank every single day, Nancy. It used to be, well, if you needed this, you got to go over here. And if you needed this, you got to go over here. And if you needed this, you got to go over here. You've been in the industry how long?
23 years.
Okay, and you've adapted.
Yes.
And do you like the adaptation?
I do. I like
Okay.
having I manage the staff, and they're just able to learn more and grow more in a position. A lot of times in the old days, a teller would come in, well, what's the chances of me getting promoted? It's a lot different now. We're bringing them in as CSRs, and we're promoting them to universal bankers now. So it's really great for the staff and the customers.
Okay.
Well, I think that's, it is important because you're right about having to go to the bank, say for instance, and you, I need a new debit card or something like that, and then you're
Right.
sitting outside the person's office because they've got somebody else in there, and they're
Right.
the only person that can
Right.
help you
Right.
at that branch. So I think it's definitely a need that everybody that works at the facility can help you out with.
So tell me a little bit about the training period that goes into this. You're out there hiring, I come in. What is the training period?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of training that goes into it. So certainly the technical aspects of the position are a big piece of it. So learning the teller system, learning the platform system, even though you're going to use them in multifaceted at the simultaneous transactions, depending upon your customer need. Also, lending is a big part of the training, because certainly if someone comes in and needs to get their debit card repinned, we may get into a discussion, Trish, about your homeowner needs and determine that you could use a refinance, or you may need a home equity line of credit to send
That's perfect.
your son or daughter to college. So it's one-stop shopping. So the person that greets you when you enter the banking center is the same individual that cares for your needs from start to finish. It's really a delightful experience, and the feedback we're getting from our customers is truly a wow factor, because they don't feel, to your point earlier, that they have to go sit here and wait for so-and-so, or let me get back to you. I'm empowered to handle your transaction, and whatever the case may be, whether it be follow-up research, a sales discussion, whatever the case may be, I can handle it from start to finish.
Well, having a business for 37 years, a jewelry store is typically, you're really sales. And I don't ever like calling my staff sales clerk or sales personnel, because there's so much more than that. And I love this idea of universal bankers, because really what that's doing is giving the consumer the ability to be part of your family. See, because you're going to have all the answers for me right then and there. And if you can't, you have the ability to get it for me and still be in front of me. Like, one thing I do hate is, I'll be right back, let me get this person, next thing you know, you've established a relationship with, let's say, Nancy in her little cubicle area or whatever, and then the next thing I know, I'm with Sharon, and the next thing I know, I'm with Bob. So it's a sort of a start to finish with the same person during that time of, I guess, need.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
Well, I think it's also really interesting because, as we're saying, less and less people are coming into the banks to actually do business in person. So I would assume that a transition like this allows you to keep the staff that you have, but make them more functional, so that you're not having to downsize in terms of staff because of physical amount of people in the bank.
Absolutely. I mean, a couple of the other benefits from it is our employee engagement scores have gone up. In my market in
Really?
particular, we had a 90% employee engagement score, which, as we all know in business, happy employees tend to deliver better service because they're happy about what they're doing, they're confident about what they're doing, so they exude that in every customer contact. So that's been a great win for us, and sales productivity has gone up.
Yeah,
Because
I can imagine.
now you have the confidence around knowing more about your products and services, so that when you spot somebody's need, you can get into a great discovery conversation with that customer and really sell the benefits as to why they may need a particular service or product. And so the productivity has been a great uptick as well.
Great. So Nancy, did you find that there was a little bit of pushback at first?
With from the employees?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
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 So that right there is sort of managing that and
Yes.
getting them to buy into the whole new concept.
Yeah, exactly. My team's done great. They're all well versed. They can help every customer, no matter what walks through that door. Whatever it is, they can help them.
Wow.
And Nancy's team was one of the first teams in my market to have 100% of her staff cross-trained and promoted. So she's done a phenomenal
Congratulations,
job with
Nancy.
that.
Thank you.
Well, that says
Wow.
something about you too.
Yeah.
You know, and wanting to do the right thing and making sure that your employees are happy in
Yep.
their environment.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how many employees are in the Groton branch?
There are a total of 5, including me.
Okay.
I have one part-time teller. Well, what did I just say? Universal banker. One part-time.
It's easy to do. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's me, and then there's the other universal bankers.
What are your hours in Groton, just so
Yeah,
you know?
we open our drive up every day at 8:30.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we close at 5. Thursday and Friday we close at 6, and Saturday we close at 2.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was interesting. Tricia and I sort of get these little preempts so that we can be prepared for our show. And I had looked down at my email and I said, well, I'm talking about banking, that's great. Always interested in that as a business owner. And then I looked way down and I said, elder abuse seminars. Very interesting.
Yeah.
This part of this segment is, you know, interesting to me as we look forward to some of the baby boomers aging. So Sharon, why don't you take the lead on that a little bit?
Sure, thank you. You know, as you mentioned, we are seeing the population age, and as a result, they're more dependent on others. And unfortunately, with the economy the way it is, you know, whether it be some folks that have lost their job or find themselves on hard financial luck, unfortunately, what we're seeing is some of these elderly folks are being victimized financially and taken advantage of. And quite honestly, you know, it can range anywhere from a hired caregiver, and certainly there are many wonderful caregivers out
Yes,
there,
of
so I don't
course.
want to convey the wrong
Right.
message here, but also family members, accountants, attorneys, hired professionals that, you know, the elder, or as we all work full time, you know, you certainly need to tap into resources, so you may arrange for certain care, and unbeknownst to yourself, you're also putting your elderly mother or grandmother, etc., at risk. So we are seeing a more predominance of it.
But as far as the bank goes, what do you do from there? What is it your business? You know, kind of thing. So that happens. So now what?
Yeah, well, I think it's our duty, our civic duty, to certainly try to spread the word as to what some of the common pitfalls can be to protect people. So
Absolutely.
we're doing elder abuse, we're calling them elder financial abuse seminars, where so I certainly, if any chamber member or anyone is
Yes.
interested in having us deliver the presentation, we're thrilled to be there. We go out and we, you know, gather folks together. We did an event at Beechwood Assisted Living in Waterford. It was very well received. I've done a few in some senior centers, and we just go in and, you know, have a little coffee and pastry and talk about, you know, things that you really need to be concerned with. And so far the reception has been very well, and if we can help 1 or 2 or 3 people
Right.
that stop falling into this victimization, then I feel like we've done a wonderful job.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And does the bank do anything in particular to monitor for circumstances where that may be happening? Not just the proactive warning people, but
Right.
also after, unfortunately.
Yeah, what we try to do is, you know, it's all about knowing your customers, and I think that's one of
That's-
the beauties of really
yeah.
getting to know your customer
Right.
base, and again, talking about the cross-trained bankers, that certainly helps with that aspect as well. But, you know, really, we try to look for patterns. So if all of a sudden we happen to see an elderly, you know, person coming in, making withdrawals that weren't typical to her past, you know, transaction history, that certainly would be something that we would be alerted to. If all of a sudden, you know, someone comes in and wants to change a lot of the beneficiaries on their accounts, that certainly could be another, you know, something we want to at least investigate. Powers of attorney, if all of a sudden, you know, a change in power of attorney, or we feel as though, boy, this power of attorney is, you know, coming in every other day saying I need to withdraw more money for medical needs. You know, there's certain things that we try to just stay on top of our game, and just typical things that aren't in the normal transaction pattern are huge clues for us.
So who is alerted at that time?
Um,
I'm sure there's a
Protocol,
process and a
yeah.
protocol that you have to go by.
Right, yeah. We would contact our financial investigative unit and let them know what we saw, and they would do background and more in-depth background investigating.
That must be definitely a subject that you have to handle very gently, especially when it comes to the point of having to talk to the person or what have you, especially because perhaps it's not.
Right.
And that would be the best case scenario, is that it's not any type of issue. It's just they needed
Right.
more money or something.
You know, it's funny sitting here, Tricia, and as I'm looking at Sharon and both Nancy, you know, even when you were explaining, I was getting a little uncomfortable, you know, just listening to that this could be something that could actually, I actually, in the back of my mind, relating it to something that had happened about 4 years ago when someone had walked into my store with some jewelry that I had seen before that didn't belong to them, and said that, you know, they were working for somebody and they wanted it cleaned. But I recognized the jewelry. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
that was funny. I recognized the jewelry, and I started to ask some questions. I said, "Really, she couldn't bring it in and clean it and have it cleaned herself?" And I think getting back to what you said previously to this conversation was really knowing your customer. Well, fast forward it was an attempted robbery, and so I had recognized the jewelry and you know said, wow, this didn't belong to that person, and we ended up keeping the person there and calling the police, and it ended up to be a good thing. But it had been a housekeeper, and it was a housekeeper that had been with the people maybe 15 years, maybe even more. So let's talk a little bit about that too, some financial or economic changes in their background too, and this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it can happen over the phone as well. I mean, you know, we receive a lot of phone calls, you know, where someone is perpetrating to just verify their Medicare information or verify account information. And certainly I find that, you know, most elderly folks are very trustworthy. So, you know, they're genuine. They want to help whoever is on the other end, whether
Yeah,
it
let
be
me
even
get that
posing
for
a
you.
question, let me
Right.
help and get that for you. But, you know, word of advice, just never, no company that I'm familiar with would ever just want to call and verify information over the phone. If you didn't make that phone call yourself and you're receiving that in, please don't respond to that, because that could be an attempt to lure your information and use it for, unfortunately, not good intention.
But you think about that, like even like Social Securities. How many times, you know, you just they want your Social Security number. You know, I feel. I mean, it gets to me sometimes. I forget my credit card. Let's say at a particular store, and they say, "Well, just put your Social Security number in." You know, and you're like,
Looking over your shoulder.
I'll be back. You know, but how many times you just automatically do that because this sales clerk says, well, we need to look your account up, but just put your Social Security number in. And I always start, and then I say, you know what? I do not need these pair of stockings as bad as I need them. I'll be back. You know what I mean? But I'm going to tell you, I'm behind people a lot that automatically do that. So that, you know, that right there is a red flag. What other red flags?
You know, some of the red flags we see, you know, certainly the unusual transaction patterns. The other thing from a family member side is if all of a sudden you sense that, you know, the family member is kind of being withdrawn from society, maybe, you know, someone in the family may be controlling their outings, controlling their mail, controlling phone calls, you know, certainly it may raise some suspicion around who's taking care of their needs. Certainly if you have any hired help, never allowing them to open mail or handle any financial transactions is a big one. And we always suggest that anyone should pull their credit report once per year. And it's interesting because, you know, I find a lot of elderly people, you know, saying, gee, I don't use credit anymore. I don't use a credit card. But when you think of it, you're a prime target because you don't use credit. So the chances are you're not going to take a look at your credit that often. So having your credit report pulled once per year is really great advice for all of us.
That's interesting. Do you have your credit report pulled? I don't.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Really?
I do.
Oh, I don't even remember the last time I had a
Yeah,
credit report
well, I mean,
pulled.
being younger, you know, having gone through buying a home and things like
Okay,
that. So I think
right.
that and buying a home, when they pulled the credit, because I didn't used to do that, there was things on there that should have come off. And so it alerted me to make phone calls
okay.
to make sure that those things came off. But I know, for instance, there are older people, family members and things like that they pay cash or their debit card with everything,
Right.
and would never even think to apply for a card, so they wouldn't know what their credit score is.
Yeah.
And like you said, they don't think they
Wow.
need it.
Yeah.
And that's
That's a first for me. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm learning a lot of stuff today. Wow.
wow, you're an easy target.
Well, I'm an easy target. Actually, Sharon and Nancy, I think I'm one of those elder people. I mean, I feel like it today. But Nancy, just tell me, have you seen a difference in the last few years, the last 5 years? Can you give us some stats on?
Yeah, there has been more fraud out there. There are a lot more sophisticated people out there. They know what to do to not get caught, let's say. I've had cases where our universal bankers that were in the process of cashing a check for another person, forging their name. We have a program on our computer where we can pull up previous checks and check the signature. And the group that I have is very suspicious of everybody. So we were able to catch somebody like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, when you see these huge data breaches going on with the companies like Home Depot more recently and Target and things like that. So as a bank, how do you step in at that point? Do you, work with the customer to replace their, obviously?
Oh, absolutely. We would always encourage, first of all, you got to keep track of what's in your account. You got to look at it and see the transactions, whether it be online or over the telephone. And yes, we do suggest for customers, if they feel that their security's been breached on their account, we can close out the card, and it won't work. The card won't work anymore. So there are ways we can
This is
save
a lot
them.
of interesting. A lot of times I'll go to the bank and say, "Oh, Suzette, do you want your balance?" I say, "No, I'm here all the time." I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe I should say, yeah, give me a balance on that. But when you go to the bank and you have a relationship, it's kind of like you're trusting the universal banker.
True.
You're supposed to be. You're kind of giving them your all. And trusting them. But it's very interesting that this kind of thing goes on and constantly goes on, and it's really sad. But anyways, so let's talk about a little bit about Webster and the growth of Webster. Okay, how many branches do you guys have now in this particular area, your area?
So I cover 15 banking centers, but Webster as a whole, we have over 160 banking centers. Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and we have a few in New York as well. We've experienced wonderful growth. The bank started originally in the Great Depression. Harold Webster Smith started the company, and what I find is just a wonderful story is that Jim Smith, who is Harold's son, is currently at the helm of the bank. And the fact that we are based in New England, we are the largest commercial bank that's headquartered in New England. So
I didn't know that.
yeah.
I didn't know that. That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
so we are local, homegrown, very community oriented. We do try to get out in the community, whether it be, our elder abuse seminars, walks, community events. I mean, we want to be your late neighbor banker that you get to know really comfortably, and we get to know you and take care of your needs.
Well, I think that, you stressed it's like a family business almost, obviously, with the son stepping into the role of the CEO, and now you looking out for the elderly members of family and things like that. So, I mean, it truly is a family banking service
Yes.
now that you're offering, and, with the universal
Bankers.
universal bankers. The word just,
it is just hard to get used to, but I love it.
Yeah.
I do too.
I love it. I love
Get
that.
to meet.
I know I didn't learn about this until this was sent over to me, and I was like, universal bankers. This is like cross training. This is fantastic. And then the elder abuse. So certainly Webster has opened up my mind, my eyes to a different sort of banking concept, and it's wonderful. So your background is banking.
Background
Okay,
banking.
so you went from
teller. I started many years ago.
As a teller,
and worked
right.
out and went to a position called a head teller, so a
Right,
supervisor.
that was years ago,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Another position called a customer service rep, where I worked
All
on
those
the platform.
positions,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
Well
and then-
deserved then, Nancy.
yeah, thank
Well
you.
deserved. And Sharon, your background a little bit, we have a few minutes.
I started out as a summer teller in college, actually, in
Wow.
banking. So I've been in banking, oh goodness, 30 years. So it's all I've known, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, it sounds like the both of you love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I am so happy that Webster Bank had came on in Mystic Matters. I learned a lot. I know, I could see Tricia, her wheels, her eyes are spinning, and she's learned a lot too, and we just appreciate you being part of our community and part of Mystic Matters this evening. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And
for,
Tricia?
Yeah.
You know what, Suzette? I believe this might be our last studio taping. We might be on the road.
We
for the
are
rest
going,
of the-
Mystic Matters is on the road. That's fantastic.
So, I don't know. We're gonna have to button up. It's
Yeah.
going to be chilly.
Yeah, and we want to thank Frank and Frank here at the studio very much. We love taping Mystic Matters here. They've been great friends to us, and we've been great friends to them as well. Sharon, Nancy, Tricia, we are Mystic Matters, the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce. Good evening.